Well, they finally did it. I can't say I'm surprised, but I'm honestly not so happy about this because the writing has been on the wall, and I've covered this in the past and I spoke about it several times in both my community and other communities as well. So I think this will be the final chapter of this. I'm gonna go through a few things, recap a few things, and make a small conclusion. Now, before all of this went down, they did release an announcement on their official Telegram channel, I think on their Discord as well, and through email to all the users that due to unfortunate circumstances, yada yada yada, you know the drill, you've seen this message many times before, they just rephrased it, that they have to regrettably shut down their operations due to FUD and attackers, even though the guy changed so many lives, So, and this is a message that they are having on display right now on their SFUSD website, their so-called stablecoin that they wanted, to interact with in their newest version V2. Their latest, most weird and red surrounded flagged version V2. So, ever since, I think there has been a few developments. A Telegram channel has been created in order for them to try and, come up with clues around the identity of the team and other stuff as well to track their investments, to try and stop them from cashing out, etc. And I think a few AMAs will pop here and there in talks with them. So that aside, I think I want to do a small recap because, like I said, I covered this several times earlier and I have a series on this. I'm gonna leave links to this in the description, to the series in particular, so you can check them out. There are a total of 3 videos posted. And this is the 4th and perhaps the final one. Now, let's do a small recap. So let's go back to StableFund V1 and understand what happened ever since. So StableFund V1 is when the hype was at its peak in regard to this project. Everyone was praising it. Everyone was talking good about it, even though since then I felt there was something fishy. Now, across Matic, BNB, and BUSD investments, they raised a total of 200 million. I think it's a bit more than that. They also claimed that they refunded, wrong use of term. They gave back in payments to investors around 100 million and nothing but 6 million in refunds when they decided to close V1. That famous refund, that campaign that they were launching, was nothing but a fraction of the total amount invested. So in theory, they should have around 94 million in their reserves, correct? That they were supposed to roll out in V2. Now, me personally, I could only account for a total of 36.7 million overall between wash trades into exchanges and hardcore MetaMask hot wallets. So personal MetaMask hot wallets and other funds that were washed out through Binance, MEXC, and now the bankrupt FTX. Now, upon tracking these wallets, so most of this money is actually money that has been sent out to exchanges to be washed out inside their hot wallets, because that way you cannot be 100% sure at the end of it, if they manage to send them back, that these cryptos belong to them originally. So I'm sure they're going to use several services to do that. Now, out of these exchange wallets, so to speak, I actually could uncover a total of 5 MetaMask wallets that still contain some crypto, and these wallets, some of them in particular, have very interesting and peculiar activities. So out of these 5, 2 of them are Matic, 3 are BSC. The amount that sits right now in them is about 1.21 million. Now, what's interesting, other than the part that they did send out about 320k to MEXC, which is something very usual that they've been doing all this time, they have actually invested into very peculiar and undergrad protocols, like something called Trident BNB and Trident BUSD. To my knowledge, this is something that would be similar to a miner or something similar to Avarice, which they have actually invested in, and they disclosed that. Now, also a small amount did go to a Cake LP pool, which is also something interesting but expected. At least this is a well-known investment vehicle. But what this tells me is that this is, by the way, the Trident BUSD contract, so Trident BNB contract. There's another BUSD contract if you do the tracking. It's actually this wallet that did send out money to another wallet, this one right here. And that is, for example, the amount that this wallet has received from this one, which has invested in return, into Trident BUSD, which currently has nothing. Now, I think this is a topic for another video. What is this? Is this linked to the SF protocol? Perhaps, right? So I tried to track down the owner. I couldn't find anything. If anyone has any information on Trident, whatever that is, please post in the comments below. I'm really curious and I'm really intrigued to find out if this is related to that. Now, is Avarice also related to these guys? Who the hell knows at this point, because that's another failed protocol that went actually to zero. Now, like I said, the Cake LP part is not something that, and by the way, those are the current funds, and those are the amounts that went to these so-called protocols. So if I go to my right, you can clearly see how the movement happened. Now, what's interesting is that some of these wallets actually had more in them, so the MetaMask wallets, but they actually sent out some money into other hot exchange wallets. So I'm sure that the team want to invest into other stuff with the money they took from you, unfortunately. And doing that through shady protocols is one thing, to wash out those investments, because they can invest into something and then take profits and, voila, done and dusted. Or they can actually put them into other DeFi protocols to try and actually make additional profits on top of that. So many questions arise here. Do they own these things? Or they just decided to do some degen plays and perhaps, reduce the current assets that they have? Because in my personal opinion, all the money that they sent to these exchanges were for one sole purpose, is to mix them out. And not a single trade, or perhaps they did do some degen trades back in the day and high leverage trades just to show that they've been doing this. But other than that, I think it was just a huge cover-up. The biggest red flag of them all is none other than their so-called stablecoin SFUSD, right? So, before recapping what this is about, like I said, if you want to know more about the refunds, which are, like I said, the fraction of whatever people invested, if you want to know more about the movements, the complexity, because they wanted to, confuse investors in their ins and outs, how they flew money in and out, you can find some of this information in the videos that I posted already, links below. So, to recap, SFUSD was created as their new investment vehicle that people have to go through if they wanted to enter V2, right? So if you wanted the refund, you're gonna get that in SFUSD to be staked to earn 1%. If you enter with your legit stablecoin, you're gonna exchange that for SFUSD to be staked to earn 1%. So some of this was rolled over because people wanted to roll over their investments into V2, and new people entered that exchanged their BUSD or whatever other asset for SFUSD to enter V2. Now, V2 was created with 100 million total supply. So, this total supply currently is split into two. You have 68 million residing in their official SFV2 smart contract, which means those are the SFUSD that are staked on the app to earn that 1%, and the rest, that was minted out of thin air, is most probably sitting on these three shady exchanges that we've covered previously in my previous video, and that can be traded over there. And of course, everything will flow back into the investor's pocket, or so we thought. Now, what's interesting, and the I'm not gonna say genius, but the how it actually went down overall. So you have 68 million in SFUSD, but not all of this amount was actually, you know, either rolled over or invested. I accounted approximately 50-50 split between rollovers and new investments. What this means is that 34 million, if you divide 68 by 2, around that, of course, I don't have an exact value, was actually BUSD or whatever else exchanged for that SFUSD. So if you think about it, in theory, you have a whole bunch of new investors backing all the assets, almost all the assets on in SFUSD on the exchanges, which is crazy, right? If you think about it. So they created a fake stablecoin. They didn't have anything to back that up, but they did. They had 94 million to do so, but they didn't. They barely provided liquidity, and they paid these exchanges to list them. And then they used new money to back that currency that they have created themselves. And the worst part is that they decided, you know, to give refunds again at a, you know, stupid, sorry for the use of language, and ludicrous amount of 30k per day, which is literally nothing, and that will take maybe a year for the last person to get their refund. And why is it the case? Because they wanted, of course, to give money back to people from new money coming in. So you see how it all comes down together to create one perfect bluff and one perfect scam. However, an event happened that, you know, disrupted their plans and made SFUSD go to almost zero, as you can clearly see from this drop, which happened after the guys announced that they are done. This black swan event that I just depicted, so something happened that made SFUSD go to zero, and them, you know, making the announcements, and after that it went to zero. Actually, everyone sold out. And it's not something that came out of the blue, a tweet, you know, a publication, a video. It's them, you know, arriving at a time where they can no longer keep this going. It's very simple. So you have a, you know, shady business model that you have been going around for a while, and then everyone is okay with whatever is happening. But there comes a point where when many people question your, you know, your logical way of thinking and your actions, that you either have to come up with something new to convince them that, yeah, you can, I mean, this is legit, so on and so forth, or your time has run out and you have to find a way out. And this is what happens. So like I said, it's not a particular event, it's a series of, you know, everyone coming to them with questions, FUD, etc. Even though there's always going to be people who are going to follow blindly and not, because they don't know better, right? Unfortunately, you have to educate the space. And this was the thing. So they decided their time has run out, they have to do something, and so they did. They released these emails, they released these statements, and they are the ones who most probably caused this. Because keep in mind that I did specify the audit report that was published previously, and I said that they can mint. They minted all of the supply. So most of these tokens that are on the exchange, they are them overselling, making profits on top of whatever else they have, and causing the crash. Because as you can clearly see, there was no support from the team to try and repeg SFUSD. I mean, the chart says it all. Unlike, if I zoom in a bit, unlike when USD was crashing, there were periods where Luna was being sold to try and repeg it. But here you can clearly see it's red candle after red candle. So these 1, 2, 3 were most probably caused by a big chunk of SFUSD being sold by none other than the team. So that's more revenues for them, because they didn't, you know, back up these tokens, which is quite interesting. And I think at the end of it, to sum it all up, them having the amount that I said that they were supposed to have to roll out in V2 94 million, the amount accounted for, the amount sitting in wallets, the amount that they have most probably made from selling SFUSD at the premium versus whatever it is worth right now, which is its actual value 0. All of this money that they have made, you know, it's quite ironic them saying that they have changed other people's lives and seeing other people defending their actions. If you do make money on a degen play that is risky, scammy, and shady, that doesn't mean that the people that you made money off of, you know, are legit. There are always going to be winners and losers in everything, right? But unfortunately, if there are just a handful of winners versus a notion of losers, this screams rug and scam. It is what it is. The team has so much money now, they're trying to move them out, even though I heard that Binance has blocked some of their funds, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure they're gonna use other shady exchanges to move money out, not reputable ones like Binance. But even then, they still have a lot in reserves, and unfortunately I could not track all of this down. I hope this group that I just mentioned, these guys will be able to, and I'm gonna help them as much as I can, because many people lost money, and because of this constant, you know, risk capital being put in and given to a few individuals who run scammy projects, of course people are gonna lose face. That's normal. So please, for the love of God, stop putting your money into centralized entities. At least if you want to enter degen plays like some that I post sometimes, at least it's open source, you know where the money is, you know that this is a game, it's very risky, that you're gonna potentially lose, but at least no one is gonna rug you from your money. At least it's safe, at least there's that. But these things are as shady as it can get. And if big entities like FTX can go bankrupt because of over leveraging, what stops small, shady, scammy entities like these guys from doing the same to you? Alright, hope you stuck around. I hope you got the message. See you in the next one. Have a good one.